Here we
set
go.
this whole thing up? Like, did you know your shirt and everything was going to be all aligned?
Kind of.
Yeah?
Well, everything is rainbow, so it's very easy to align.
You got a good style, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm more of the mountain man kind of style, but when I was younger, I used to dress like that all the time. And I think I kind of changed my beat of my drum a little bit. I'm a little bit more hardcore, but it's all fit pretty well. And I just got the earrings going now too, dude. You ever have your earrings?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
So every single season when I start things off, I will create a character in my head. And you've got all this like anime all over the place. I'll pull from movies and cartoons and everything like this, and I'll create a character in my head. And I'm like, I am this person. And I'll do everything in my physicality, emotions, psychology to transform towards that person and make sure I am him by championships. And if I can do that every single year, I become a beast. This year includes earrings.
Dang. I'm all about characters. I love like building a character, really thinking it through. I hate when you just like stumble through life and you don't really know who you are and what you want to do.
Dude, that's what I always tell people. I mean, like I'd rather have like passion and crisis than just float. I hate floating. Yeah. I say this often to people when I bump into them. I'm like, there's people who float and there's people that swim. Like if you get knocked off the boat, you can sit there and wait for someone to come pick you up. And then there's people that just start swimming. You're like, fuck it. I'm going to at least start going that direction because if I go that direction, I have at least the glimpse of an idea that I'm going to get something done. I'm not going to leave it to fate. And I think that's a big part of creating characters. Like we're all kind of just born into, a chapter of life wherever we are, whoever we come from. And we kind of just get into that system and then we're told we're supposed to be something. And I think that was part of the big reason why I used to be a troublemaker when I was younger is I just didn't know. I was bouncing against all the walls trying to feel something. I was like, this just doesn't feel right. I got to get out of this cage. And ever since I got the freedom of being an adult, I started to kind of create these narratives in my head. And I have Macho Man Randy Savage tattooed on my ribs. Like it's become something every single year where I create a new and better version of myself.
And don't you think that with working out, you need to be very disciplined and like you need to, like when you pick up a barbell or you pick up weight, you need to be very determined. You can't just float it around or think maybe I pick it up, maybe I don't pick it up.
Yeah.
It has to be, you have to like have a single focus. I mean...
You got to have extremes.
Yeah.
For my case, I'm one of these kind of things where I will take big off seasons. Like my world championships last year ended May 26th. I then went and hiked in the woods and did absolutely nothing physical or business-wise for 3 weeks. And I let go completely. Because if you're gripping things all the time, you're never going to really be able to squeeze fully. But then when I get zeroed back in, as I get closer and closer and closer, I let go of more of the everything else in my life, whether it be friendships, business, relationships, whatever it is, I let go of it so I can show up to whatever is the most important thing with absolute intention. And I know it sounds a little cheesy and woo-woo, but at least in my life, like a lot of people, they show up to work every single day and their life is just kind of spread out over a week into 365 days a year over a 10 to 20 year job. Mine lands one day every single year to find out really how valuable I am at my job. And, I have to show up with absolute intensity. So, Olympic lifters is a one lift, a gymnast is like a floor, a floor display. Myself is 60 minutes of maximum effort. And, if I can do everything just perfectly leading up to that, it's that moment you said, walk up to that bar, grip it with intention. Same thing. As soon as I tie my shoelaces on before a championship, it's all in.
Maybe for people that don't know, you can explain your world records and what you do.
So I started my career out in running. So like I did a couple, road races, then I got into Spartan race. Spartan race was like a really big thing that, when you left college, you had two options if you're a runner. You're going to go into triathlon or you're going to go to the Olympics. Like you had two options if you're going to, be a professional runner. And then all of a sudden Spartan race came up and it was like this third lane. And that was much more suited for me. So I pursued Spartan race. Then I got into Tough Mudder. Then I went to the CrossFit Games. I was the first person, I guess the only person in history to ever be invited to the CrossFit Games. And from there, I got into a sport called Hyrox now, which is kind of almost like 50% Spartan race, 50% CrossFit. It's like running and all the fitness movements all combined. And now I basically travel around the world and go into big arenas and do this event called Hyrox, which basically is 8 stations trying to determine who's the fittest person in the world. And each station represents something like an Olympic or world championship sport. Like the first station is a ski erg, like Nordic skiing. Next one's sled push, like bobsled. So you've got all these movements to see, like, how strong are you? How fit are you? How long can you last in this movement? And, you know, it's been going on for 12 years now. It's been like just all over the place, kind of like a ping pong ball. But, you know, as I've gotten older, things have gotten a lot more refined, more intense. The world is, you know, I think with our phones, it's one of these kind of things where it can be an absolute distraction or absolute inspiration. And when you wake up every single day, you can either be distracted by this or you look and see somebody like yourself or myself and you're like, holy shit, that guy's going after it. And you're like, I want to beat that guy. I want to match that person. So I use mine as inspiration. Now, like, you know, I got people coming from all over the world after me, which is great. Makes me run faster, but a little bit of fear, a little bit of inspiration in that sense too.
Yeah, and Hyrox is like experiencing some sort of hype. I feel like it's
crazy.
It's much more popular.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do it. It's more accessible than CrossFit, I feel like, because you need less equipment and like it's a more compact version.
Yeah.
Where CrossFit, you have just like 5 different bikes. You have all these like different tools that you need. It's very hard to sustain, kind of like, and it's very unprofitable. So I feel like Hyrox has like a peak right now.
It's interesting. Like, I can only speak highly of CrossFit because CrossFit got me where I am right now. Like, I started to learn about CrossFit and inspired me to train. And I never trained like I was going to the CrossFit games. I used CrossFit to train for other things. CrossFit's amazing. It's a great methodology, but as a sport, it's very challenging in the way that, sure, there's going to be freaks all over the world that are going to be the top of the food chain in any given sport. But something like CrossFit, where you only have the open and then you have a couple things that will filter you into the games, it's very, very selective and very few opportunities to compete. Where Hyrox, at any given time, there's like 3 to 5 competitions going on that weekend globally. If you're in Malaysia, if you're in London, if you're in New York, if you're in Austin, Texas, there's just an event going on. And you and I could like be like, hey man, you want to come do one with me? We'll look at the website. Hey, there's one in Anaheim in 5 weeks. Let's go. Perfect. Hey, I can't make that one. Well, 4 weeks after that one, there's one in New York. You know, hey, weekend after that, there's one in, you know, London. You're just like, oh wow, like this is actually something I could show up, learn from, and then book one 8 weeks later and do better. So not only is it much more accessible to people, but as you said, like it's a little bit more bare bones, like not so complicated. It's raw, so everyone can step in and feel like they can show up at a pretty comprehensive level from the start. And then there's people like myself who are training 20 hours a week and travel the globe, like focusing on taking off seconds. For these other people, they're just looking for inspiration and opportunity, which is awesome. Because for the most part, you know, we want to just get everybody in the world moving and being more healthy and kind of chasing some targets. And then, you know, if you take the magnifying glass to it and real put some intensity to it, then that's where you get super inspired by looking at champions like myself. So I think Hyrox is one of these kind of things where they took the best of both worlds, which was the running community and the CrossFit community, and now you meet them right in the middle and it's taken off.
Is your world record still standing?
Oh yeah, I've held the world record basically ever since I started in 2020, and I lost it once for like a brief second, but I've had it for about 5 years. It's been good. I set it again recently in Stockholm.
And you also said it with like the double, right?
Yep, set it with doubles. Yeah, that was good. You know, at this point, I will say, like, without hesitation, I'm by far the best guy in this sport, which is great.
How close do they get?
About a minute or two, which is not close.
Okay.
In reality, like, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but, you know, just, you know, you asking questions, I'm going to give you raw answers. So, you know, if you just look at the score chart, I'm up there still. But it doesn't mean, like, at this point in my career, I am racing against myself. I look at the record that I just set and I just say, I hate that version of myself. I want to take off 10, 20, 60 seconds. So like my coach and I have been working for the past, we skipped this whole season after I set the record and qualified. I skipped the rest of the season and I'm just like, we need to take off 60 seconds or we're not showing up. So dieting, training extra hard. I'm sleeping in an altitude tent at home. Like everything is just like so singled in on this operation. It's crazy. It's a science project now.
Dang.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. My room definitely doesn't look like this. I'll show you a picture on my phone of my new altitude time. It's ridiculous.
What else do you do to be your peak performance?
I think peak performance is actually a lot less than people think it is. Like, we have watches that track what we do. We have apps on our phone that track what we do. And I think the most important thing, if you really want to be the best at something, is actually saying no to other things. So like I wake up in the morning and I've been writing a book for a while, and I just stopped writing the book because I understand if I am thinking about the book, then I'm not thinking about training. So you just keep on cutting things out. If you're thinking about going on a date with that girl, don't go on a date with her. Stay home. Stay focused. And sure, there's going to be a girl who eventually shows up in your life that really aligns you. But at the end of the day, you just need to take all these fingers, chop them all off, and just get down to one. Just one thing that you do every single day and do it perfectly. And that for me is buy the book. It's actually not that advanced training. It's the same thing over and over again for about 8 to 12 weeks. And you're just trying to either take a second off or add a pound. Take a second off, add a pound, and just keep on doing that for 12 weeks. And if you do it perfectly, you add 12 pounds and take off 12 seconds. Then you change it a little bit, and you just keep on making the body work just in little angles. You're always kind of going towards true north, and you can go a couple of degrees to the left, a couple of degrees to the right. And what I notice mostly in the world nowadays is nobody loves that monotony. And you have to. To be excellent, you have to love monotony. You just have to like my brother, he's top of the game in the hedge fund world, and he just looks at graphs all day and numbers. That's it. And there's nothing you can do outside of that to become better at that game. And same for athletics. You just have to look at numbers. And you know what? Like I've run the same trail hundreds and hundreds of times. I've lifted the same movement hundreds and hundreds of times this year. And what it ends up coming out to is I just have done it more than you have by the time you've showed up against me. And that's why I beat you. And most people are like, hey, I want to go to Pilates or go to like this class with my friends. I'm like, I don't do that. I do that one thing over and over and over again. And when you show up, trust me, you're going to see it happen. And it's going to fucking hurt. You're going to regret that Pilates class or that drink you had with that girl. And I'll be running right past you.
There's a thing Matt Fraser said, I think, is that every decision in his life while he was competing at the CrossFit Games, he would think like, would it like help your performance or hurt your performance?
Yeah.
Every single thing, like every minute of the day, he would like choose if it would help the performance or hurt the performance.
Yeah. I mean, my cousin who's sitting to the right of us, like he's my business partner, and like, I just tell him, I'm like, hey man, like, that I could show up to this meeting and it'd be helpful for me to be there, but it also would hurt something else, which ultimately is the most helpful thing for us. So I have to just let go of that. And, there's parties going on that I want to go to. There's families, like, my cousin just gave birth to a daughter, like all these kind of things that I want to show up for. But at the end of the day, like, you just kind of got to pull back. I don't know if this story's true or not, but Arnold Schwarzenegger said that when he was training for Mr. Olympia, his dad died and he couldn't show up at the funeral. I'm not going to that extreme. If my dad died, I would show up, but it's one of those kind of things where it's like all these decisions add up. They're paper thin, but if they stack up over time, it's the difference in that, if I'll just give you an example. I've done the math. 1% in my race is 32 seconds. So if I increase my race by 32 seconds, obviously it's going the right way. 1% wrong. So if I'm only at 99% of my potential, it's 32 seconds behind. And that means that guy I was just telling you about, who's within a minute or two of me, is just coming up against my edge. So, everybody has to have that mentality if you want to be the best. There's only one champion every year.
Man, and then I would say that probably all the people that you're competing against also do their best or try their best and not wrong step at all times. Do you think that there's something else that like sets you apart, like just some sort of like mind strength or determination? Or I think I heard one clip where you said like your dad would like drill you.
Oh yeah, my
as
dad
a very
would wake me
young,
up.
yeah, as a very young teenager, he would like drive and you guys would like run around.
Yeah. Hand on my heart, my dad used to wake me up every single day before school and drive behind me in a car and drive alongside me and set the cruise control next to me. And it's one of these kind of things where neither of us knew what we were doing at the time. It was just like, hey, if you're going to run against people, you might as well run against a car, something you cannot beat. and we're just going to push you as hard as we can to figure it out. And our training is much like that still. Like, we don't make stupid decisions, but I think the thing that separates myself from my competitors is there's never a decision that I will not make that's going to put me in the right direction. And at the end of the day, I don't really allow my emotions to get in the way, and it's tough. It's like super tough. You know, you have to be able to be this light switch where you shut off the whole section of your mind and show up only for that singular thought, which I keep on talking about. And I can tell because I can immediately walk into the room against my competitors, and I can tell just by looking at someone's eyes exactly where they stand against me. They don't have to do anything. The way that they hold their shoulders, the way that they hold their eyes when they talk to me, if they tilt their head down a little bit, you know. And like, that's another part of the game, which is psychology, is knowing your competitors better than they know themselves. Like, everybody has a tell, and that's a massive factor. You know, one of my favorite people to study is Lance Armstrong. And if you listen to the reoccurring facts about him, is he knew his competitors so well. He was always doing research, finding out what they were doing, who they were training with, what their doctors were, and he studied them. And like, that's the other X factor that I don't think a lot of people focus about. They're just like, oh, I'm a stud. I'm like, well, that's cool, but you have to walk into the room and know exactly where that other person's going to try to surge, or where they're going to try to hold back, if they're going to play a little cat and mouse or possum, whatever the heck you want to call it. And you have to play against that. And like, I punk my competitors before they even get started. You know, I just, like, it sounds silly, but I tape my competitors' names on pieces of my equipment. And like, to them, they'd be like, what? Like, the other day, one of the guys wrote me, he goes, I see that I made it on your wall. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm here to shatter your reality. Like, I don't think you understand what this is. And he goes, well, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me to winning. I'm going to go kiss my kid and see my wife. And I'm like, I don't care about your personal life, dude. I'm just telling you about what's going to happen on that day. And that's it. That's that thing where you're like, what's the difference? And you're like, the ugly answer is a lot of it's hate. You have to hate a version of yourself and things around you to make this massive shift in yourself. You have to just like want to tear apart all the old versions of yourself, rip out the roots out of the ground, and build something that's entirely different. And you have to do it every single year if you're going to show up in these kind of things.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, and then when you're on this assault bike, these deep dark thoughts never crawl in. Like, I when I do CrossFit, and there's always like this moment where this self-doubt sinks in, and you have to like push it away when you like feel sorry for your ass on the assault bike.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you, or do you push back and forth between like, I'm not good enough?
You know, in those like old movies, like where they had to like chop an arm off, and then they take like a piece of steel and then they burn it to seal everything off. I don't know when it happened, but there was a chunk of time in my life where I just burnt all of the synapses in my brain that allowed me to think or feel sorry for myself. Like, there's days where like I'll wake up and I'll just be like, gosh, this is hard. And like that, it will last a millisecond.
Yeah, where you're like, why am I doing this?
Well, I'll admit, like, I do have to be very practical and honest with myself. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And I quit Hyrox a couple of years ago because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I had won the world title twice already, and it was not getting any better. You know, I think I'd made like, I don't know, $12,000 that year. And like, I'll just section out. My coach cost me about $1,000 every single month. You know, we are flying around the world for, you know, it's costing anywhere you show up. Like, a one-way ticket in business class right now, and I'm not trying to act fancy, is like $6,000 to get over to Europe. Like, every single thing, it's just, you're just chopping away. So money-wise, it's not worth it. So I quit. And all the numbers are adding up against me. So I was like, what am I doing? And often if you see me traveling around today, I'm not doing it. I have to wear my grandfather's like medals and watches. He was the one who originally got me into sport. And this guy, he sacrificed his athletic endeavors to go focus on the family. He became a doctor, had 5 kids, and then he got into sports afterwards, and he became a Masters Olympian, and you know, he loved it. He was so passionate about it. And then he was pushing me, like, without being too much, but he was like, you're going to be great. You're going to be great. Like, I'll read a post to you in a second where he always told me I was going to be great. And I was like, what are you talking about, Grandpa? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I may have won that race or maybe became second or third. He's like, just keep going. You're going to be great. And at this point in my career, regardless of the money, which has become interesting at this point, it's part of legacy, I guess. I recognize I have this really incredible opportunity where I am one of the very few people in the world that could do something at this level, because I keep on breaking the world records, and it'd be almost a disservice to myself and the people that have believed in me up till this point to not do it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people just gave me that push. You know, when you first start surfing, someone has to kind of push you into the wave. I just didn't notice it at first. And now I'm up on the wave, and it'd be kind of rude to jump off early. Like, I got to ride this thing into the beach. So I guess outside of the metrics of money and the fame and everything like that, there's a lot of ties to my family and people that believed in me, because I have a dark past in the way that I had to go to rehab. I was arrested a bunch of times. Like, I was the biggest loser in the room. And now when I walk into rooms, I'm the biggest winner. And it would not be the case if it wasn't for certain people that have surrounded me and kind of buffered me from that next chance of me fucking up. So there's a big factor of that also.
How long ago was that with your past?
I think the last time I was arrested when I was around 20 years old. 20. I was dressed up as Hello Kitty. You'd appreciate this. I was dressed up as Hello Kitty, and I looked amazing, by the way. I had a wig on, mascara, this like tank top, and I was looking buff as shit in tight shorts. And there was this huge, like, it was Halloween, as I wasn't just dressed up like Hello Kitty on a normal night, but it was Halloween, and the streets were so packed full of people, like hundreds, if not thousands of kids walking up and down these streets, and there's cars trying to get through them too, but it's gridlocked. So I started running over the top of all these cars, and I tripped and fell, and my ass went through the window shield of one of the cars. And, you know, within the next, handful of minutes, I was detained. And, that was the lowest of my arrests. I had helicopters chasing me one time from arrests. I've been arrested 4 times. Most of them, except for that last one, were felony charges. Had to go to rehab for a year, was heavily into drugs for probably about 8 years of my life.
What kind of drugs?
Everything. I got to the point where I was injecting heroin. I was doing pills, cocaine, anything I could get my hands on at the time, to be totally honest. And it wasn't like the need to do drugs. It was the want. Like, I had no reason to say no. And like, much like I have right now with sport, I have no reason to say no. Like, I know the high of what it takes to become a champion, and I'm willing to like go through all of the burn and all the hurt because of that just one moment of bliss, which is like just crossing the finish line in first place. And it lasts a millisecond. It's kind of like a shooting star, but it was all worth it. Like, if you like stayed up all night and hiked all the way through the woods to get to the top of the mountain, you heard that this one shooting star was going to come by for 5 seconds. Like, would you do it? Me, every time. That's that glimpse of eternal, bliss. But I had that when I was younger with drugs. Like, it was not even necessarily about getting high. It was about like the lead up to getting high, the person I was getting the drugs from, how I was going to get the money, where I was going to do the drugs. And I finally got high, and like, yeah, I'm high now, but I'm just like, it was more the journey than it was the actual drug itself. And, at the time I didn't realize why I shouldn't be doing them. And I was arrested a bunch of times in the cases because I was also doing a lot of mischievous things alongside of it, because it was just a part of the lifestyle, I guess. Being young, not really knowing any better. And I can look back now and I can honestly say I'm so glad that I did it, because I really believe in this statement. You don't know the highest high until you've experienced the lowest low. Like, it's very, very hard to have that kind of perspective. Like, I truly have been in handcuffs and been in rehabs and been to the verge of being like truly put in jail for years and years and years for silly things, and then getting to the point where I'm at now, where I appreciate the time that I have rather than just like squandering it. And now I can also sit down with people across from me that are having these kind of questions and speak to them truly. Because when I was going through all this trouble, I would sit there and my rehab counselor would be like, you should stop doing drugs. I'm like, have you ever done heroin? He's like, no. And I'm like, then shut the fuck up. It's like, you have no clue how good it feels. Like you have no clue, like why wake up every single day and work hard, go get A's and then maybe graduate, get a degree, go work for somebody, get a paycheck, get taxed on the paycheck, pay rent, do this, do that, or just find a way to score $20 and do heroin or whatever kind of drug that you're into. And it's hard to have that answer. And now that I've been able to build out of that place and be up where I'm at now, there's something to really appreciate about that hard work that it took to have that moment to hold a gold medal or be able to have conversations with people like yourself, because I'm sure you wouldn't be interviewing me if I was a junkie. Like you're interested in the story of how did I get there, and your audience is interested in how they do it themselves. And to have that spiraling staircase that finally brings you to that moment of like bliss, you know, it's a very important story for people to hear.
Yeah, I love I'm so intrigued by like what kind of mindset it takes to be the world record holder in Hyrox, you know? Like like what kind of human do you have to be? How determined do you have to be? What sacrifices do you have to take? I have to tell you this one story. At my CrossFit gym, there used to be this ex-drug addict.
Yeah.
He's physically looks nothing like me. He's not as strong, he's not as fast, but he has no pain tolerance. And when we go up against each other, he would just beat me to the ground because I am just mentally, I cannot, it's not, there's days where I can do it, where I can go in this dark zone and I can just zone out and click the switch and I can just do it. But there's also days where I just feel sorry for my dumbass and I become like soft in my head and like I just back off a little bit, where he does not back off. He doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to him how much it hurts or how much he will just keep going. We would do Murph and he would just destroy me.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, is it because he like you said, like he's experienced such lows that he doesn't care like about this pain right now. It feels like it doesn't resonate anymore. You know, his life been so difficult and so hard. He's been so low that this is nothing to him. Like, you know, like when people say like they do cold plunge and they like try to like, they feel so good after everything, after a workout because everything becomes easy. It's almost like he's done such hard things that even this WOD, even Murph, is nothing to him, kind of.
I guess my answer on that is like once you've been on the dark side of the moon and your eyes have adapted to the dark, like it becomes normalized. But most people don't want to put themselves in that position. Like everyone's scared of the dark. Like I don't want to fucking go in there. That's scary as shit. But then all of a sudden, if you hang around for a while and you be there and be comfortable with it, like you do adapt. And like, you know, I go out and do these hard runs and these hard efforts and it hurts just as much as I ever did do it before. But all of a sudden you just like, you come up with these mantras and these things where you keep on focusing on that singular thought that I've been kind of trying to weave into this conversation. And all of a sudden it all just goes away. Because in reality, what's going to come in is like, you know, shit, my girlfriend, shit, that cat, I forgot to feed it. Shit, I don't feel so great. What the fuck am I doing here? And you just all of a sudden be like, wait a second. I've done this before. I'm a champion. Like my mantra last year, because I was training to go to the Olympics and paddling, was paddle past them. And every single time I just got into like a really difficult place, I would just say paddle past them. That's it. And all of a sudden it just fractures everything else around you and it just creates this one singular thought again. And you know, that's my answer.
That's how you talk to yourself during those moments?
Oh, yeah.
Just for a millisecond or?
It just takes that.
Yeah.
It takes
You're like, I'm a champion?
Yeah, whatever it is, dude. Everybody has to have their own thing. You can't take mine. No offense. But I'm just saying, like, you can't take mine because it has to mean something to you.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's all about alignment. Because if you think about it, like, so this guy, Laird Hamilton, lives below me. We live on the same road. He was the most famous surfer in the world at one point. Probably still is in households. And he would get up on, you know, waves that are 100 feet tall. And, you know, I can't do that. Like, I wouldn't just get on a board and get on a 100-foot tall wave right now. But he has done it enough times where that 100-foot tall wave is a 3-foot tall wave to me. He's just been there. And he can say whatever he has to say to himself, and he just gets on that wall of water. So to me, that seems alien. And to the way that you and I are talking right now, you're probably hearing me say something right now. You're like, that's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. But these high-level operators, the highest performers, all have things like this. They have these little things that we all aren't aware of, but are all very similar. You know, whether it be Kobe Bryant taking a shot, he maybe just plants his foot, twists his heel to the right a little bit, and then he takes the shot. It's just these little actions that align you perfectly. And it sounds odd because most people don't want to just fixate on that same idea over and over and over again. They want to show up for joy. I will say, if you study most champions, I can't say this across the board with everybody, look at them. Not a lot of them are actually having fun. They're like charging with this burning hatred. Go look at Mike Tyson. Go look at Michael Jordan. Go look at Lance Armstrong. Like any of these guys, I don't know about, like, you know, I'm speaking for men because I mainly study men in athletics. You can see this hatred burning inside of them. They may not hate themselves. They may hate somebody else. Maybe they do hate themselves. Maybe they hate their dad, whatever it is. And it's this crazy fuel. It's like splitting an atom. It's this insane amount of intensity that cannot be generated from most places. And you can hear it in their interviews. And when I see somebody running around, no offense, with a smile on their face, I'm like, you don't have it. You just don't. And I'm not saying the psychology that I'm sharing with you right now is a healthy thing. I'm just saying it's the thing. And you can go out and you may be like, Hunter, I don't think you're right. Go watch some film of these athletes and you'll see the same intensity and grimace and clenching in their face across the board.
So what is your hate?
I don't know, man. I mean, I had a mushroom trip not too long ago, and I like to like. I actually take mushrooms nowadays just like I would a 6-pack of beer. Like I used to take it to like party. Nowadays I take it to kind of just just let it loose a little bit, because when you're clenching all the time, you got to let loose sometimes, otherwise you'll break. And I did this mushroom trip with this guy who's a shaman around here, and I don't like using these terms, but this guy truly is like a wizard of the mind. It's crazy. And I didn't expect it, and he put me through an experience that literally cracked me open like a watermelon and scooped out my brains and showed me some shit that I never had seen before. And it made things a lot more clear. Like I can see now this character that exists inside of me that when something happens, it's a chain reaction. It's just 1, 2, 3. And without fail, if 1 starts, we are going to get to 3 every single time. Like somebody tests me, I feel the trigger, I react. 1, 2, 3. And that 3 is that like that atom splitting like I told you about. And I'm sure a lot of these athletes that I just discussed with you have that exact reaction. Somebody said something to them when they were younger, somebody hit them, somebody left them, somebody, whatever it is, and it sets off this chain reaction. And I have 100% that. If you just said to me something right now where you're just like
give me an example.
Let's just say like, I know somebody who could beat you in Murph, or I know somebody who's better than you in Hyrox. Like, I didn't really think your time was really that respectable. Like, if you just said that to me and like you and I, just in passing, I would literally take a Post-it note and put it on my wall. And I would literally train for the next 3 to 6 months with laser focus, disproving what you just said. And you may never think about that conversation we had ever again, but I will. Like I messaged a guy that I competed against and I said, congratulations. I didn't think you had it in you. He won a championship. And he wrote me back basically saying, hey, I just want to be honest. Like I say that I don't really respect you as a champion and I want to beat you someday and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I hear you. And since then, I have just destroyed that man in my mind 1,000 times. Just obliterated him, just melted him down to atoms and then things far beyond that. And I know this sounds crazy to so many people, but I'm just speaking very honestly with you. That is the thing that's the difference. One of my favorite stories is the story of Magellan, the guy who was the first person to go around the globe. And we didn't know that the world was round at the time. We just were like, there's an edge and we're all going to die. And he wanted to get to the Spice Islands, but he wanted to take a different route because he could get there faster. And he couldn't go basically around these certain kind of trade routes because they were basically blocked off. You're not allowed to sail through these waters. These are our waters. And he was the first person. He was just fighting tooth and nail. Please believe in me. Got kicked out of his country, went to another country. And eventually people were like, we'll finally give you a boat. He was literally fighting tooth and nail against people saying that he would never do it. He was a bullshitter. He was a traitor, all these things. And he got it done. He got it done. It took him years to get it done. There was mutinies against him. He eventually died in the name of it all. Like, it was crazy. But this man, it never would have gotten done if it wasn't for this man's insane intensity and disproving basically people that did not believe in him at all costs, the cost of his life. And like, that to me is a story of like that's a book that's going to last. That's a true story. That's somebody who literally had that same exact 1, 2, 3 that I've been talking about. And he went so fucking crazy that he sailed a boat across the world into territories that they didn't think existed. I'm like, when I think about that, I'm like, well, I'm a bitch. Like, I'm only doing like push-ups and ski erg and running on top of a mountain. Like, this guy got in a boat and was basically sailing to a place that they could have just been the edge of the planet, and they all fell off. And even while everybody was trying to betray him. So when I say all these things, like, I have just always used these points of reference to understand. I'm like, Hunter, whenever you think it's hard, there's someone who's doing harder work. And it's acceptable to be in these places and with these mindsets, because if you do want to accomplish these things, you have to live there. You have to live in this hurt. Otherwise, you will be complacent like the rest of the world. Because I think 300,000 people raced in Hyrox last year. I'm number 1. This year, there'll probably in the next calendar year be around 500,000 people competing. I'll be number 1. And it will continue to grow. And you have to have that mindset against all these others. You have to just be degrees better than all of them. And it's just that mindset. And it sounds crazy. I mean, you probably have to paint this room black and shut off all these lights and live in this moment of just intensity to find that space. But I'm sure if you wanted to, I could teach you how to find it.
Well, so do you believe that physically there might be somebody physically better than you, but just mentally it does not matter to you because you will not back off? You will destroy that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because like physically, maybe they're better.
Yeah. There's people that are better than me right now physically.
Yeah. But mentally, when it comes down to it, when you really, let's say you go head to head and you're next to that person, mentally you will not let them defeat you.
Dude, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady was like one of the last recruits to getting into the NFL. He was one of the lowest recruits, and basically he was back of the pack, worked his way up, beat everybody down, worked his way in, went after it, and got 5 Super Bowl championships, like against all the odds. Then you look at the guy now, what's the name of the quarterback now who's the head of the Chiefs? You know what I'm talking about, Alex? Mahomes. Mahomes is a genetic like specimen. That guy, you knew he had it from the start. Tom Brady, basically took coals and pressed them into the diamonds. When you think about that, there's that guy, Patrick Mahomes, and then there's Tom Brady. Brady beat him. And to me, it was mindset, not body, not genetics. And I know there's people out there, like I've referenced many times. Everyone's like, oh, is anybody going to beat you? And I'm like, dude, once the Nordic skiers decide to come in, like those guys have the potential to beat me. I don't know if they're going to, but there's people out there that I've studied that are genetically better than me. I'm not the fastest runner. I'm not the strongest person. I can weave mindset, strength, and endurance together better than everybody right now. But it's the mindset thing. If there's like one deck in my cards that I will play every single time in all bad situations, it's my mindset. I'm not going to beat you in a bench press. I'm not going to beat you in a squat. But then as soon as we leave the gym and it's like, Hunter, it's time to compete, I just have this card that nobody else has. And it's been odd where I've just been able to, in 95% of my competitions, been able to use it and win. Because I've almost not lost anything in my entire career. There's definitely things I've lost, don't get me wrong. Like when we were doing Spartan racing, like I was running against guys half my size and I still would get up against them, either beat them or come second or third. And it was genetically just not possible really for me to be up against these guys, but I just used this. And that's why I always called myself like the bulk pony, or my motto is biceps and races, because it's not really my legs doing the work. It's just this. And, it's panned out. I definitely will tell you in absolute honesty, I'm not this like God's gift to earth. Not. Like I actually was a like middle level runner. Like if I had to go to nationals in high school for cross country running, I would be one of the last people to run that race. If I wouldn't even qualify. and same with wrestling. And then when it came to like college, like or schoolwork, I barely graduated college. I own 3 companies now, and I have a bunch of employees, and we have international businesses, and I'm in places where I shouldn't necessarily be based on the my earliest potential scores. And I just worked it, And since then, like I've gone to competitions where I've beaten Olympians, I've beaten world champions, I've outworked people in business that have degrees that I could never even touch. And it's just the action, it's the mindset.
How did you do in CrossFit?
Got my ass handed to me. I mean, reality, I think I took 47th out of 150 people in the first workout. And then
Like you're talking about this open or
no, I don't do the open anymore.
Okay.
This is with the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I was doing very well. And
that was back in
2019.
2019?
Yeah. It was the year I kind of got an opportunity, but I also got my opportunity I got a noose put around it. It was the first year that they invited, like they had all the nations come, and then they invited me along with that. But it was also the first year that they had the cuts. Yeah. My entire goal of going to the CrossFit Games was to go win the endurance workouts and show people we have some pretty substantial athletes that could kick some ass and win your guys' endurance workouts, like the run swims. Like the workout that was after the one that I got cut was the ruck run, where they put weight on their back and ran. Like I would have smoked these guys substantially. But I will admit, like wholeheartedly, when it comes to traditional CrossFit, like walking on your hands, handstand push-ups, snatches, ring muscle ups, I'm middle of the pack at best. At the CrossFit Games, I probably would come 20th to 40th in almost every single workout. And the endurance workouts, first place on almost everything, except for probably things that had some really complex movements. But CrossFit's one of those kind of things where I have to respect these guys. They just love beating the shit out of themselves. Like it is an ugly sport. It is just like just snatching over and over again, then doing handstand push-ups and bashing your head into the ground and bending your spine. Like I just recognize when I still have a back injury from it. I was like, I don't want to live like this. And that's why I'll never be a good CrossFitter. And I will, hands down, like I've got friends that have gone to the CrossFit Games many times, been on the podium. Good for you. I don't want that. Yeah, they're insane. They really are.
People would say the same thing about Hyrox, no? That's ugly.
I think
it's pretty ugly too, no?
It is definitely
it's so
ugly.
Long, god damn.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Hyrox is its own version of ugly. Yeah. And there's lots of athletes like out there, like Ironman athletes that just amaze me, Tour de France athletes that amaze me. But CrossFit's one of these kind of things where if you look at just the metrics on it, the people that have been on the podium alone, the amount of substantial injuries they've had. I'm not talking about like, oh, I tore my hand today. I'm talking about surgeries. Yeah. Like 30% of them. And it trickles all the way down through the whole field. Every single time I'm talking to one of my CrossFit friends, they have some kind of damage involved. And I don't know, man. It's like being an MMA fighter. Like you're going to have black eyes. Like that's just the nature of that sport. And I'm not trying to say CrossFit is a bad thing. Like don't think you're going to get hurt doing normal CrossFit. But when you're asked to do maximum effort in such a variety of things, your body will just unravel.
And Hyrox
doesn't like that. I mean, dude, I spend...
Like how much do you deal with injuries?
Almost never.
Never?
I crashed my bike the other day. That was the worst thing that's happened to me. I separated my shoulder and it sucked. Like it still hurts badly, but like that was me being an idiot biking into the ground. I've never got hurt doing any of the movements for CrossFit. For Hyrox. And I'm not saying that makes Hyrox better, but for longevity, if you had the data on those two sports, it's alarming. It'd be 100 to 1 ratio of injuries. And Hyrox is really at the end game, like the very highest level, is a cardio sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have an amazing physique, but it'd be hard. Like I can tell you right now, based on your stature, I'd need to take 10 to 15 pounds off you to make you a good Hyrox athlete, like break 60 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah.
How much you weigh?
180.
Yeah, you're going to be like a 170 guy.
How much do you weigh?
198. But I started the season at 216.
But I'm also 5'7".
Yeah. But I'm saying you have to drop it down. Like I'm going to have to get the numbers I want, drop another 6 pounds. And it's just a strength to weight ratio thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool and it's not. It depends on what you're into.
I know. I like being a little bigger.
Dude, so do I.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like when I quit all this kind of stuff, I will just do a little bit of bodybuilding and mountain biking and yoga. That's it. Like I want to have my chest and my arms and my legs again. I don't want to have to run all the time. Like I don't care. I don't mind having like 10 to 12% body fat, but which is above normal for sure. But I don't want to do this shit anymore. It hurts.
How do you deal with aging? Because I hate fucking getting older and like knowing that like the closer I get like to like 35.
How old are you?
31.
Oh, dude, I'm so much stronger than I was at 31.
No, of course, strength-wise.
And fitter.
Yeah?
Oh,
How old are you now?
35.
Okay.
I could literally like, you see the movie Predator where they like rip the spine out of the back? Like I could do that to my old self. It's insane. Because in reality, it's a game of accumulation. Like if you can accumulate more hours doing something, like Ronnie Coleman was his strongest at the age of 40. He destroyed his body in the end, but so that might be a bad example, but it's an accumulation of basically time. And if you can stay healthy, you're good, dude. Like I truly think that I could bump into you in like 6 or 7 years and you'll be like, dude, you were right. But if all of a sudden, like, let's just say you just keep on doing CrossFit or whatever and you tear your pec doing like a ring muscle up, which is common. Now all of a sudden you're like, dude, I just haven't lifted in such a long time. You're all emaciated. And like that one thing is never going to get 100% again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, let's just say you strain your back a little bit. It just takes these things where eventually you've basically broken yourself down so much you can never get back to 100%. Like my mentor, Bobby, this guy's crazy. He's 60 years old and he looks like me. So strong, so fit, but he's always been like very selective what he does. And if you can do that, man, you're golden.
How many more years are you planning on doing Hyrox?
If I had to just be totally honest about my plan, I think I'll do Hyrox for 2 more years and then I'll start to taper out and try to make a bid for the Olympics in paddling. Because it's here in LA, which would be amazing to like retire on the Olympic year, which would be, I think, badass. So I'll probably be done completely in sport at the age of 39, 35. So I got 4 more years.
And you like paddling?
Yeah, I just studied the sport and where I was like, rowing, I have a lot of potential in rowing, but I don't want to be on a boat with 8 other guys. And like I've kind of studied the sport and I'm not saying I know enough about it to give you guaranteed answers, but it's like politics. Like even in this book right now that I'm reading about Lance Armstrong, it's politics. Like you may be one of the best guys, but they're not going to give you a spot on the team because you're not friends with Lance, and you may not be like, hey, you didn't go to Harvard and, the whole team's kind of like Harvard alumni, that kind of stuff. So I don't want to put anything to chance. I want it to be like, hey, I'm the fastest guy in the country in this sport. There's no question. Like we're putting Hunter in the boat for the Team America. So I don't think I can make it in any other sport, to be totally honest also. Because paddling is savage. It's just strength endurance.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any other sport where your expertise would like come in handy.
I mean, dude, I just think paddling, rowing, and if I had really, really dialed myself in from a young age, maybe Nordic skiing. But I can't even say that would be a guarantee. Those guys are freaks. They're tiny guys. Yeah.
Maybe, and what you said makes a lot of sense because I feel like CrossFit is now, like 3 years ago, it was very strength. Like they still had like the max, like cleans and like, I remember this one athlete broke her elbow live on stage, and then they really been making a swift where now they're trying to do it way more cardiovascular. And even the Open this year was much more cardio based and there was no max lifts at all. And it seems like that makes a lot of sense because you want to keep athletes healthier. And with always giving them those extra challenges where they have to do a max lift and get that weight on their spines.
Yeah.
It seems not longevity-wise not good.
Well, I think they probably saw the business model of Hyrox and they're like, oh, we could probably take out all this heavy lifting and at least the initial stage of our sport can be more inclusive.
Yeah.
Because like even myself at a freak, like I would do a lot of these open workouts and I would get to like, if there was 5 stages, I would get to stage 4 at best, like of the lifts. I'm like, what the hell? And, I could do everything else, but I was like, God dang. And like, that's got to be like kind of heartbreaking to somebody when they don't even make it to stage 2 kind of thing. So, 50-pound dumbbell, everybody can lift it. So how many times can you do it? I get that they had bar muscle ups in there, but for the most part, those workouts are pretty gosh darn solid, and everyone can do them.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart marketing.
Right?
Yeah.
Man. So, yeah, what about those videos where you're like hammering the assault bike? You love doing that shit, or you just like feel better afterwards, or that it needs to be done?
Well, part of it's part of my formula. Like I created a formula doing sport about 5-6 years ago, and I think in part it has to do with my size. I'm so much bigger than everybody else. I can't run as much as them, so I use the bike for about 50% of my training, and it sucks. But at the same time, it's like all I have to do is just really beat the shit out of my lungs and my legs, and then I polish up my running when I need to do the really smart stuff. So you'll see a lot of content me on bikes, and I love it. Alex was with me. We did like a 10-hour bike ride the other day. And it's just, at the end of it, I'm hungry. Maybe I'm a little bit sore, but I wake up the next day, right back to it. No questions asked. And remember that conversation I was saying earlier, it's all about longevity. It's like, how long can you accumulate the right workouts? And for me, if I can get one awesome workout every single week, that's 50 workouts making me better throughout the year, basically. And sometimes, I'm just a guy who chronically overtrains, so the bike saves me.
To get the lactic acid out? Yeah,
man. I would say the other, my favorite pieces of equipment right now are, I would say the Concept 2 bike. If I could have just one gym, I would tell you this, hand on my heart, I would have a ski erg, and I have this device called Vitruvian, which is basically something about half the size of this desk, only weighs 30 pounds, and it's got cables in it. And you can lift weights on it, and it gives you all the data on your phone. I could literally fit the ski erg in that corner, and I could push the thing up against the wall, and this could be a gym in here.
Yeah.
I get that at this point. And I have a gym that's probably worth about $110,000 with equipment, everything. But in reality, if I wasn't a pro athlete, I'd have just those 2 pieces of equipment. And even as a pro athlete, those 2 pieces of equipment. And the ski erg's one of these kind of things where it works your abs, your lats, your arms, your stomach, and your legs and lungs better than any other equipment out there. And then obviously, you need to lift weights if you want to get stronger. But I've recognized in my old sweet age of 35, Olympic lifts, even though they're cool, are not necessary. You can just lift bars faster and get speed reps. And as I said, bodybuilding for me has always been the thing I love. I just want to get a pump, so just cable work, baby.
Dang. So how many hours per day do you work out?
3 to 4. 3 to 4. Real hours, though. Not hey, I've been in the gym for 3 hours. No, you showed up and then you had coffee and you stretched and talked to your friends and you looked at your phone for a bit for 45 minutes. I start the watch as soon as I start sweating, and I stop the watch as soon as I'm off whatever I'm doing. And, just to give you an example, I woke up this morning and I did strength.
You wake up 4?
Every day, yeah, 4. Unintentionally, too. I don't set an alarm. But I woke up at 4, got a little bit of work done, had a couple meetings, and I was in the gym for about an hour and 15 minutes doing very specific strength work, have to hit numbers. I wasn't beat up either. I'm just focusing on hitting a number, and I get out. There's where my ego stops. And then tonight I'll do 2 hours, an hour-long bike, an hour-long run. Tomorrow we have the super intense sessions, and those are about an hour and a half in the morning and about 2 hours at night. And then Saturdays are these huge bike rides that we just do. And this time of year, because it's before championships, I sleep in an altitude tent, and I'll go up to my training camp near Big Bear, and I'll train there for 4 days, and then I'll come back and do my really specific work here at the house and sleep in an altitude tent. And it's it's bubble boy life.
What does that do, the altitude?
So it's pretty interesting. Your body has red blood cells traveling around carrying oxygen throughout it. And when your body goes up in altitude, basically the pressure system changes and the density of oxygen for every breath that you get lessens. So the higher you go up in the air, the less oxygen there's with every breath that you take, is basically. Your body compensates for that, and it's hey, we need this oxygen, so we're going to need to create more red blood cells to keep on carrying more oxygen. So you can increase your blood volume by, I think, 5 to 7%. And That just means oxygen, fuel, more work. So what we do is we train up at stay up at altitude. Our body gets that stimulus where it wants more red blood cells, and then we come down to sea level, which basically where my house is, and do super hard workouts with this extra blood, and it just lets you push in a way that your body couldn't normally sustain if you were just down at sea level. And you have these adaptations where you can just keep on pushing and working harder, and then you go back up, sleep in your altitude tent, or go back up to the cabin, which is up at 5,000, 7,000 feet. And you just keep on playing this game of a little yo-yo. And eventually, by the time I'm at championships, I'll fly overseas and stay at an altitude camp for the last week. And then I'll show up at the ocean where we're competing in Nice. And, I'll basically be like a cyborg. But you only want to do it certain times out of the year because eventually you'll kind of flatten out the curve of your performance if you're always doing it. So what you want to do is like be up there for a while and then chill out for a while. Be up there for a while, chill out for a while, and it will definitely boost the shit out of you.
Do you do cold plunge and sauna too?
Yeah, I do. I have a sauna, I have a cold plunge, but it's one of these kind of things where at the end of the day, like sometimes you're just like, it's almost more stressful to do that than it is to not. Like you can ask Alex or anybody who hangs out with me, like I will get done with the day and I'll just lay down on the floor. Like I'm just done. I'm not going to move until I have to move again. And when you get to the sauna and you're just sweating and you're now in the ice plunge, you're like freezing. You're just like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I got to get ready for my next workout. So, I would say it's a luxury. It's not a necessity.
And it also sounds like it might not better you in your performance because you need every little bit. You just lay down on the floor.
Yeah, if you want to get nerdy about it, like here's the thing. Your body only has so much energy every single day. Yeah. And you can put 100% towards one thing or 10% to 10 things. And like, even though it's nice to do those like kind of spa experiences, your body actually, people may disagree with this, like it doesn't want to be stressed out. So your body has a system where it responds, it has inflammation, your body responds to inflammation, it reacts, it grows, it overcomes, it gets stronger. When you're constantly blunting that with things like ice baths, like I can't say that about the sauna. The sauna doesn't affect your inflammation as much, but it will just fuck with your system. And I think it's trendy right now, but I study the best athletes in the world and they're not talking about it that much unless they're getting paid to talk about it. That's one of those things I've just been a very big advocate of. If I want to find out something, I'll find the best person in the world. I'll read their book. If they don't have a book, I'll read the person's book who coached them. I'll read the person who lived with them, like, since they were a kid, whatever it is. And you'll find synchronicities across the board. And I almost never hear people talking about the cold plunge heat stuff that are at the top of the food chain.
So what do you do to recover?
Food and water. I mean, I own my own supplement company and I've always been like super diligent. I think one thing that everybody does, and you've been drinking water, I think, like everyone's chronically dehydrated. Yeah. Like water increases your metabolism, increases your muscle protein synthesis, it increases all of your body's abilities. And we're always at like, everyone's always like a couple % dehydrated, I believe. So hydration's super important. The things you put in your water are super important. I'm a big believer in amino acids, help recover the body. Food, like I measure all my food. I make sure that I have like everything that I can imagine that's necessary, just weighed out on a plate. I don't touch vegetables, nothing. I only take things that are metrics of fuel. And for me, vegetables don't cut it.
So what do you eat?
Dude, ground beef,
yep,
rice, steak, oatmeal, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I saw that this morning.
Yeah, and water, dude. I swear to God, you can ask anybody.
Bro, there's a video of like Rich Froning just eating peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
just eating it like that.
And look at his body.
Yeah, he's one of the best looking CrossFitters of all times.
Yeah,
if not the best.
Yeah, dude, ripped physique. And people are always like, "Oh, I'm gonna take these ketones. Oh, I'm on this special diet." I'm like, dude, you're a special pussy. Like you need to just go and you need to go get some hard work in your life and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like the difference between having this like perfect salad, and I'm not saying salads are bad, but this perfect salad that everyone thinks that they need to eat, and like all of these greens and these micronutrients, or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a protein shake. I'm like, dude, every single time I'm going to the PB&J and protein shake. If you work like me or train hard. You know, if you have a sedentary life, salad every time. Let's just be honest. But at our level, no, doesn't cut it.
I love to hear that.
Dude.
Because it seems like there's like, you can get so obsessed with like little things and like micros and like doing this a little bit, that's a little bit. You kind of like almost forget to go and just do the hard work and just eat whatever, fuel the body and pump it, you know?
Dude, if you came and trained with me for a week, which almost nobody survives, by the way. Like I usually, when I do training camps, I have like 5 people show up and I just use them differently. Just like, you know, I just burn them like matches. I'm like, you're going to be my running guy. You're going to be my lifting guy. You're going to be this guy. If you could survive for a week, you will just notice at first, like you'll have like all of these ambitions of doing all these hard workouts and eating this specific kind of food. And by the end, you're just eating Cheerios and milk. And you're just praying to get a little bit of rest in between workouts. And that's it. And that's like literally what ends up happening at this kind of level of training. You know, if you go hear the stories of Usain Bolt, he would just go to McDonald's and go get chicken nuggets, you know, and that's the fastest runner in history. And, you know, against all of the odds of all these biohackers and things like that, I'm like, hey, these are just the facts. I'm not the one creating the stories. I'm just the one living the lifestyle.
Yeah, I think Floyd Mayweather is known for drinking Coca-Cola after working out.
Dude, I drink Coke all the time.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just jet fuel.
Yeah.
It's just jet fuel. Like you cannot like we work, like one of my coaches, he'll do resting metabolic rate testing on me. You put this mask on your face and you breathe into it while laying down. It will tell you how much your body just needs to survive laying there. And then we'll get on the treadmill and we'll exercise super hard and we'll see all the gas exchanges of how much per your heart rate or levels of exertion, how much calories you're burning. There's no way in the world. Like I could have chicken breasts running across the entire table right now and it would not provide enough fuel for me for the day. I could have salads with like, you know, all these perfect little things and fruits and nuts and berries across the whole table, wouldn't provide enough fuel. You give me, I could take 7 Big Macs and eat that for the day and that will cover my base. In reality, that's a better routine for me than it is to go and try to have all these little perfect smoothies and shit. It's an ugly answer. Like I want McDonald's to sponsor me. I go to McDonald's more than anybody else you know. I love it. I do. Come on, McDonald's, quit being fucking lazy. But yeah, these it's funny like how I end up getting these conversations with people and they're just like amazed. They're like, what? How could you? I'm like, look at me. I'm fine. You know, it just works out. Otherwise, if I stopped tomorrow and kept on eating like this, I'd have diabetes in 2 weeks.
Do you think it's also because you just have a happy mindset and you don't like punish yourself with like not going to McDonald's, and then it's like also like the intention how you just like eat it and then you work out 'cause you just feel good?
Well, there has to be joy in your life.
Yeah.
You know, I don't eat like cubes of food that are just like perfectly designed for me. I mean, I may get there, but yeah, I mean, I think it does bring joy just knowing I'm like, I just smashed the hardest workout. I'm going to go have McDonald's and I'm going to smash another workout. And, you know, at the end of the day, it is the workout. It's not the meal. As I kept on saying to you, if I have 50 workouts throughout the year, that's 50 workouts that are making me better. It's maybe taking 50 seconds off my time from last year. 1 second every single workout. And if it's the food that's going to make the difference, if eating a McDonald's burger is what's the answer, do it. Don't hold back. Don't let some book that you just read that, you know, keto or vegan's the way to go. Like, eat what's necessary. Your goal is the workout, not the food. And that's where people get all mixed up. And, you know, for us, you know, being a champion, there's only one action. It's winning. That's it. And everything else is auxiliary and whatever it takes to get there. You know, it's just wheels to support the mission.
Is there space for a partner or family in this life?
There is. I mean, I'll admit I'm single. I had this like aha moment after my last relationship. I was like, I could go out and just go tear up the town, which is nice. And I was like, I'm just going to take 6 months and just focus on myself and see what happens. And I did that. And I set the world record again, won the world title, and my business is like increased massively. And I gave myself some grace afterwards. I was like, I'm going to go out and have some dates. And I went and had some dates and things like that. And I had this conversation with myself. I was like, I need to be honest with these girls and say, listen, This is who I am. This is where I'm going. There is a seat on the boat, but this boat is going this direction. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just want to be totally honest. Like, I wouldn't ask you to give up on your dreams because you like me or I like you. Like, don't get this confused. Like, I am Hunter McIntyre and this is my agenda, and you can be my girlfriend alongside of that agenda. And at this point in my life, it's not going to be girlfriend first or wife first and kids first kind of thing. And some people can do that. I just can't, because I'm seeing a girl right now and she seems to be with it. And I'm like, hey, listen, like, you can come over and you can sleep with me in my altitude tent, and you can basically, join me on a bicycle alongside me with the workouts, but I'm not going to go into the gym and do your workout because you want someone to work out with. And don't misunderstand that. It'd be like me trying to, like, if I was a lawyer, you wouldn't expect you get to come to like the courtroom and sit next to me while I, litigate. It's just not the case. And I think some people get confused because I end up dating a lot of girls in the fitness industry. They think that it's going to be this happy-go-lucky, bubbly, fun kind of relationship. I'm like, no. This is where you like to work out, I like to train. So I know I sound like the big bad wolf right now, but I just don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden it's like the Tom Brady Giselle thing. Like, you get aligned with each other and you keep on chasing your dreams, you keep on getting better at your dreams, and then someone gets upset with you because you were doing exactly what you said you were going to do. I'm going to be the best football player in the world and I'm going to keep on winning, and this is what I am made for. I'm a football star. I'm a Hyrox star. And eventually those days will end, and I hope there's somebody alongside of me when I get there, but I'm okay being alone at this point, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm satisfied. Before I wasn't. I always felt like I needed a +1 to feel like everything was working out, but now I'm cool.
What changed?
Well, that moment, that 6 months, I was like, it's nice, like cuddling along somebody. It's nice having an orgasm. It's nice having all these things. And I was like, Hunter, do you want your life to be nice, or do you want your life to be a fucking amazing? Because Hunter S. Thompson is one of my favorite inspirations. And, he has one of these quotes where basically he says that you basically need to like slide into the grave, like all burnt out, chewed up, and just like basically like worked yourself into the fucking ground and lived like wild, young, and free. Like, you have to live your life. You can't just exist in it. And I cannot think of one other thing in my sphere right now that makes me feel this way. And I'd feel like I would sit there on the couch next to my wife or my friends, and I would feel this moment of just like something always drawing me away from that room if I didn't do this. And anybody who knows me very well knows that I truly do love this. Like, there's like not a gun held to my head to get this stuff done. And I just think I had that moment where I was like, can you exist in this space being alone, like finally alone? Like, because I was a serial monogamous. I just kept on going girl, 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 girl. And once I had that moment, I was like, oh, it's okay. Like, it's quiet sometimes. Some days are boring, but I'm just like, you'll lay on your deathbed being like, fuck yeah. Not like, oh shit, I should have tried harder. Like, that'd be the worst way to go.
Do you sleep before the competition?
Sleep well?
Yeah.
I think so. But I'm not one of these kind of guys who really gives a shit about sleep. Like, if all of a sudden it just becomes such a problem, I will make it not a problem, if you get what I'm trying to say. But, most nights I go to bed at 9 and I'm up by 3 or 4.
But the night of the competition?
Yeah, I sleep well knowing that I'm going to whoop someone's ass tomorrow.
Yeah?
Like, that's fine. That's fine.
How do you feel like 10 seconds before the timer goes?
It's usually the hate again.
Or do you feel that?
No, none of those. Butterflies are for pussies. Like, it's like...
You feel the hate?
Yeah. Yeah.
You look forward to embarrass your opponents?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You look at them before you start?
I mean, I'll shake all their hands. Like, I don't dishonor anybody. But you have to be silly. This isn't patty cakes. This isn't kindergarten anymore. Like, we don't sit in the sand and share toys. Like, this is a championship. There's only one toy that's colored gold. And I want it. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up. And, like, I don't care if you don't like me because of that. Like, you decided to show up knowing that I existed. And I'm everybody's worst nightmare. I'm the reason why they never made it in life. You know, that's most of my competitors. They have to wake up every single day thinking that. They're like, fuck, if Hunter didn't exist, I would have been the world champion. But he does. And that's fucking never going to change. Yeah. You got to think like that. I mean, at least that's where I think I come from.
How was it then with the double?
How was it with the doubles? It's great.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
nice.
like, fuck, I wish there was two of me.
No, I mean, listen, dude, like it'd be great, but
He's just slowing you down at this point.
no. But here's the thing. I've learned to become more of a team player guy. I know this is like, I sound crazy right now, but I've learned to become more of a team player guy, and I've realized how much joy there is in that. And I think a huge part of that was actually owning a company. Because the way I've explained owning a company versus being an athlete is pushing a rock to the top of the mountain every single day. It's the same action. Just push it up, push it up, push it up. It's just one thing to focus on. Owning a company is like pushing 10 rocks up the mountain. You're trying to focus on push this one up a little bit, then push this one up a little bit, and you have to keep them all kind of in line, and you got to still keep on climbing. And then once you learn how to let go of just like being that singular rock, that singular action, you can actually realize there's a little bit of joy. Like, hey, what's over here? I'm gonna push the rock this way a little bit. Like, and you get to enjoy it. You know, Alex and I were driving here this morning and we're just talking about business. Usually before, I just am in my own head thinking about training, thinking about winning. When you've got a business or you're racing doubles, you're sitting there and you're like, hey man, like, how do you want to break this down? Like, let's do this. And then you get to celebrate in the joy of winning. So I wish I actually was a little bit more mature when I was younger and I would have been better at team sports, but maybe I'll find it in my older years.
What ranking does this guy that you doubled with have?
You know, he was, I guess, top 5. Like he'd always be on the podium or just off of it at the big championships. He's very talented. Michael, don't get upset with me. He just doesn't have that mindset, and he knows this. And I'm just saying it because we're friends at this point, and I've talked to him about it a lot. So when it's time to like where things are about to break, instead of doubling down, he kind of spins off. And that's just part of that thing we've been talking about with, you know, great intensity today is like, you got to have it. But when we're together, the pressure's not all on him, and he's shined. Like he was actually pushing me at times. I was like, good, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, you know, and that's a beautiful place to be. And I think he'll continue to be my doubles partner as we continue to race championships because he has so much raw talent. And like, as long as I can be there pushing him a little bit, I think he'll always match me.
Do you have any like weaknesses on all those movements?
My weight? I'm way overweight in this sport. Like I just always like to get bigger and
which
bigger.
Makes you stronger than the other guys, but they might outrun you, or?
Yeah, but I mean, I could. You were just talking about like really when it just comes down to getting the fastest speed. It's a strength to weight ratio, and you can look at it like if I can pull off some weight and sustain my strength, it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
So for me, I just need to focus on myself. Like there's stations and stuff that I can polish a little bit, but I understand. I'm like, Hunter, if you spent all your time doing this, is your life going to get that much better? No. Just focus on your diet, get lean, and keep on doing what you're doing, and you'll be good. That's my biggest demon.
What made you like go crazy when you were young? Is it just the extreme personality that you have, or you were like bored of life?
There's just no reason not to. There was no reason not to try. Like I looked at a window and I said, what would it be like if I put a rock through that? Alex has smashed windows with me. It wasn't like we smashed the window and then burnt down the building. We just wanted to have that one little moment of just like, And I was saying that to you earlier about doing the drugs. It's like that moment. And I'm not fixated in staying in that moment, but I need to keep on feeling these things. Like if I saw a tree, I was like, I need to see what the top looks like. So I'd climb to the top of the tallest trees and people were like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, well, what are you doing down here? Like, we've all seen the roots. What's it like up top? And same exact thing. Like, I'm sure, like, you know, the addiction of chasing women, it's just like, I've seen you naked, but I want to see her naked. And it's like, it's this moment. And, you know, it never lasts, to be totally honest. And it takes this ability to find control in yourself because we're all so impulsive. And there's that version of myself where I was telling you there's a character inside of me, the 1, 2, 3 guy, what it takes to snap me. There's also this impulsiveness that needs to feel that high in that moment. And that's just another version of Hunter. And I was able to tame that beast. I realized I overdosed on cocaine a week before a championship when I was racing at the age of 23. And I was just like throwing up, and I was just a total mess in Miami, freezing cold, throwing up, sweating. Like my body was just going into shock. And I got on a plane early thinking that I was going to die in Miami. And I didn't want my parents to find out that I was in Miami partying when they were believing that I was training professionally. So I flew home early because I was like, if I die in Miami, this is going to be bad. I need to get on this flight. And I was just like dying on this flight. I get home a week later and I race, and I come third place to the 2 prior world champions, and I was not far off. I was like right on their heels. And I knew the difference between winning and losing was me, not them. And I just said to myself, I was like, what's your fucking problem, man? I was like, why would you show up telling everybody that you're going to be the greatest when we both know that you were just in Miami blasting powder up your nose for the sense of what? Like, there was no end goal for the cocaine, but there is an end goal for the racing. So I was able to tame that beast, and I said, never again. Basically, never again. I haven't. So now I'm trying to maybe find containment in other places in my life, but I will say, this is going to sound ugly, like I don't want this monster to die. I don't want to solve the riddle of my monster, because if I do, then I maybe wake up one day and be like, well, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I do want to solve it before I get into a household, or like I have a wife and kids, because I understand that monster doesn't really have a place there. But as long as I'm competing, yeah, he does. He's important.
It's what drives you.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I can really say that I study all these people, all the greats, and they all have that dog. I'm just maybe one of the people who speaks very plainly about it. Because it's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, you guys admire me for winning races, that you should admire the version of what really gets me there. And this is the honest truth. It's a madman underneath it all. And I can cover it up at times, but other times I can't. I'm just like, let it go. Just let the beast live.
Your brother doesn't have that mad dog?
No, my brother does. This is so funny. My brother Garrett, he's way better than I am at this stuff, and he's the most amazing human being I know. When you upset my brother Garrett, his lip curls under like this when he starts to get angry. It's his tell. And you just want to run. I mean, the dude is ferocious. He's a ball of fire. And he used to beat the shit out of me when I was younger. So bad. Like, bloody face, all this kind of stuff. And he's not because he was a bad person. It's just because he had that same beast inside of him. If it set off, he went after me. And I was his little brother. And I mean, I'm really not saying this to say my brother's bad. I hope nobody takes this that way. But yeah, he's got it. And all it comes down probably from my dad. My dad's for sure got it. But it's part of us. I mean, it's a part of our superpower. We just have to find a way to tame it.
And to like channel it in the right direction, kind of.
Well, mine's sport.
Yeah.
Mine's sport. I mean, I used to get into bar fights all the time, and I stopped fighting people January 1st, 2011. I hit somebody in the face and knocked him out on New Year's Eve, and the cops came up, and I was able to say, oh, he swung at us because he looked really drunk, but I'd actually just knocked him out. And I was like, it was him. He attacked us, and they took him away instead of me, and I had just gotten off probation, and I was like, I just can't let this version of myself out anymore. I just can't. So I've been able to let some of those people go in my life. And I still have this other version that I use for racing. It gets out of hand occasionally, but yeah, I mean, we all have it to a degree. It's just my monster's a little bit meaner than yours.
So what did your dad do?
What does he do now?
No, what did he do to put that monster inside of you?
I don't know, man. But he changed also. My dad and I never were friends until I was like 22 or 23. He was the one who kind of pushed me to get into athletics when I was just about to like quit everything in life. And at that point in time, for some reason, his monster just faded away. I don't know why. So at that time, I was 23 years old, and he is 69 right now. So if you minus that off, he was in his late 40s, and he just let it go. It just faded away one day. And we used to battle when we were younger. And now it's gone. Like, I don't see it in my dad anymore, which is really impressive. He changed a lot. But there's like stories, like my dad one time, like this guy cut him off driving out of New York City, And it was a pimp. It was a pimp, like, big candy paint car with a special hat. My dad walked up, got out of his car, ripped this man out of his car, stole his pimp hat, and threw him on the ground, and then got back in his car with his pimp hat and drove away, like, in front of the family. Like, it just was like a rage moment. And I hope my dad, like, I don't want this to come back to my dad and make him look bad, but my dad's not a bad person. Like, that just came out of him. We've all had these moments. But, like, I remember those things. So, like, when I see myself going off, I'm like, okay, there it is. It just came down the genetic chain. So, I don't know. I'm sure everybody's got some dad stories.
Yeah, but you found like a good way. I guess we all have this anger inside of us as a man, but you need to like find a way to let it out.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think this may come across wrong and whatever. I'll share my voice because I have it. It's more accepted in the world that women are allowed to have these emotional swings because of that time of month for them. And I'm not saying I understand it at all because I've never had that time of month. But it's not understandable for men to have these emotional swings because we have hormones too. And we're generating them and we feel that surge, and it comes with something. And it comes with things that are sometimes not the best behaviors attached to them. And it's just like men are just spanked for ours. And women are like, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but they're like, oh, she's just in that time of month. And you're like, okay, fine. But yeah, dude, like I know that I have swings. It just comes. And I just have to be like, chill out, bro. It's like, it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. Let it go. But I mean, I can honestly say, like, I notice it myself. I notice it in my friends and everything like that. And I guess just because we're guys, like, we're able to maybe handle it better. I don't know. But I'm not saying I understand the other side for them. But for us, I definitely know I can feel when my stuff comes up.
So what do you think about men that are not physical active?
Shit, man. I do worry about the world because the world used to be such a physical body place. And I think physical movement is such a version of like therapy. And even when you don't know it, like gardening can be therapeutic. Just go outside and just go weed for a while. And it may seem monotonous and stupid, but by the end of it, like even going for a walk, you feel different. And I know that when you're just not moving your body and you're suppressing that version of yourself, it becomes difficult. Like some of my friends that move the least definitely have the biggest issues. And I'm not saying that this is the answer to everything, but sometimes there's what's like over, like the people, I'm sure you've met people that exercise too much, like they're almost running away from something. They're trying to drown this kind of feeling inside of themselves. I may even be one of those people. I don't know. But yeah, I can't judge. I can't say like, oh, you don't exercise, you're a loser. I don't know. I don't really have that much of a judgment on it.
But it seems like, yeah, I have a lot of anger and I feel very soft and calm after a hard workout.
Yeah.
And if I don't work out for a couple of days, that builds up and it will find its outlet by itself. And sometimes you gotta like, I can sort of see it out of my perspective. And if I didn't have that outlet, that would be not like, I wouldn't be like a good person. I would say kind of like I would find my other outlet, like you say, like you swing at somebody at the bar, or you find something to let that out, that anger.
Yeah,
and I think that's where fitness comes in very handy because they can have a very good outlet.
well, I agree with you there. I think all of us have to have something that is going to really let go. But it's interesting, like my brother doesn't really exercise that much. I don't know what his outlet is, but he's maintained himself. So I'm not saying exercise is always going to be the thing, but all of us have to have something. And, I don't think we're really taught that when we're younger. And like, it's really interesting, dude. Like I've been writing about it in the book that I've been writing. I was this kid that was put in a resource room with a bunch of kids with like Down syndrome and autism. And there was myself and like one other two kids with like ADD. And we were put in this room because we were just like uncontainable. And it just blows my mind that they didn't try to all of a sudden be like, hey, instead of putting these guys in just another room that's got less people, why don't we take them outside for like an extra 20 minutes every couple hours and let them loose a little bit and then bring them back in? They never even tried that. They just kept on trying to give me more medication. Like I was just a pill boy. I was a pharmaceutical experiment to them. And now that I'm older, this is part of the reason why I've been writing the book. Like, I'm trying to disprove this system where everybody considers ADHD to be this curse that needs to be medicated and suppressed. I'm like, no, it just needs to be channeled. Like, that's where you guys are all fucking up. Like, I found a version of channeling this, and look at the empire I built. I was literally, the teachers told me I wasn't going to make it anywhere. Like, I was considered like the biggest failure in our school at the time. Like, you know, I was just basically always put in this box of that direction. And I'm not sitting here like, boo-hoo. It just was my reality. And then I woke up one day and I was like, wait a second. I don't need medication anymore. As soon as I got out of rehab, I didn't take medication anymore. And I've not taken medication ever since. And I've got all these people around me that are popping Adderall, Ritalin just to get through the day. I'm like, dude, I don't do any of that shit. And I run laps around you guys. Like, I'm not confined to being, addicted to these pills to survive. Like, I actually perform really well when I wake up in the morning and I have systems and I take care of myself and I have this mental maintenance that I call it that really just gives me a level of acuity and opportunity that is far beyond what they perceived me to be. So that's where my movement comes into place. But I don't know. I can't say that exercise is always going to be everybody's answer.
But it was yours.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And
that's my samurai sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Is that what your book is about?
Well, the book is basically about how there's this chapter. Oh, there's not chapter, the best way of putting it. There's this whole group of people out there where if you have depression, you have anxiety, you have any of these things, they're willing to help medicate you and understand you. There's books for all of it. And then there's ADHD. There's no answers. They're just like, we're going to put you on these amphetamines that are supposed to cancel out your energy and get you to focus. And I was like, there's no answers. There's no real good books on this. And I was like, I need to write a book for these kids that don't have like a clear path or like something to look up to. Because I knew when I was younger, I was like, am I fucked? I'm like, is this it? I was like, is this my future? This kind of mindset, these kind of rooms, is this my ceiling? And I just wanted to show people that you don't have to be this medicated person that is this predestined future based off of what these rooms and these schools and these pharmaceutical companies are telling you. I've touched no medication, and I've literally built up and won 10 world titles, 6 world championships, run 3 businesses. I have 8 employees on international businesses, like things that little boy in that room never should have been able to do. And as soon as I let go of all of these things that they were putting on me and started doing things my own way and creating my own systems, and most of them being in believing myself, the sky was the limit, dude. Like, I'll die a mega millionaire, if not a billionaire. I'll die with way more world titles than I have right now. And these aren't things that defined me, but I'm just saying these are things that they told me were not going to happen. And I'm just taking the freedom of my time, just doing what I think I want to. If I didn't want to make money, I wouldn't. If I didn't want to win titles, I wouldn't. I'd do something else. But for right now, it's the floor that I want to dance on, and I fucking love it. And, this book is not meant to be like, yeah, Hunter's the coolest. It's more like, look, guys, like, here is the path. Here are some answers that you may not know. Because I've grown up my entire life, and some of the biggest reasons why I've succeeded is reading books of people that have done things before me and learning from their lessons. Like, I can read about Alexander the Great. Like, I'm not going to go take over the world, but I learned from him. I learned that it was it was possible. It really was. How did a young boy before the age of 27 take over the whole world, basically? Oh, I'm 35 and I'm still complaining about my little e-commerce businesses. Like, shut the fuck up, Hunter. Level up. And you hear about a book about a guy sailing around the world, or a guy that climbs up Everest without an oxygen tank, like all these kind of things. You're like, it's all possible. Someone who's telling you that it isn't, shut them the fuck up. Put some duct tape over their face and keep moving. And, I know there's a little bit of intensity in my voice, but I want people to hear this, because there are rooms that are going to be full of people that don't believe in you. Lock the door, dude, and walk away. Like, the only person you need to believe in you is yourself. And I started doing that, and as soon as I did that, man, it's been a rocket ship straight to the moon.
What made the change?
I think I just recognized I kept on showing up. After I got out of rehab, I went to college, and I lost all my opportunities to go to school for sports. And it was on kind of like this last chance thread of going to Rhode Island College, where my grandpa got me in just on a favor. And nobody wanted me there. Wrestling coach didn't like me. Wrestlers didn't like me. Everyone was like, you're the rehab kid. You're that kid who's got all those problems, right? Blah, 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 blah. All my teachers before me were saying the same exact thing. And I just recognized there was this moment where I was like, well, I haven't done anything to disprove them that they're wrong. I'm actually the guy who fucks up everything. I'm the kid who takes medication to get through the day. I'm the guy who does all the drugs at the party. I'm the dude who somehow, if there's a window, will put a rock through it. I'm like, you're basically telling them everything that they're saying, so you can't blame them. So I recognized when I was like, go up and show up and knock on a door for a party and people wouldn't let me in, it's because what I did before, not what I was doing right then. And I was like, I need to do things that will change people's outlook on me. And like, if you want to be in this place forever, so be it, Hunter. But I didn't. Like, I wanted the opportunity to play ball. I wanted the opportunity to show up and be perceived as not a loser. And you can't blame other people for calling you a loser if you're acting like a loser. So I changed it. I was like, fuck it. They won't let me to wrestling practice. I'll just train every single fucking day on my own, harder than everybody else. And I had never trained at that point. I'd only shown up to practices. So I just had to go into the gym and start running hills, lifting weights. I didn't know what I was doing. So I bought the books. I started learning. What did Arnold Schwarzenegger do? Do that. What did this runner do? Do that. Lift, run. And all of a sudden everyone's like, whoa, Hunter, why are you so fit? I'm like, oh shit. This is what it looks like when you show up. People notice. Now people wanted to start hanging out with me. People wanted to start doing things with me. All of a sudden you win a race. You're like, oh shit, what does this come with? And it's like, these aren't moments of validation. They're moments of just people being able to identify with something other than you being a fuck up. And like, I had to really, really do a lot to pave over all the fuck ups that I did. So underneath this layer that you see right now is a bunch of spray paint and scars, because that's what I used to be. Like, I was a fuck up. I had a very messy life. And now all you see is gold medals hanging off me, because you didn't even probably know that I had this past, did you?
No.
Exactly. I had to work my fucking ass off so that you didn't think of me and immediately think drug addict, rehab kid, arrested a bunch of times, kicked out of a lot of schools. And that's it. That's the reality. Like, you can't expect to go anywhere in this world and to have people just let you in and give you a high five and give you a hot meal. That's not the way the world works, unfortunately. You have to earn it. And I decided that I was going to wake up one day and start earning it.
I think that's a good ending right here.
All right. I'll take it.
Man, where can everybody find you?
The easiest way you could probably find me is just type in Hunter McIntyre. We have got a lot of great social media channels. I'm really lucky that I have a team that believes in me. We've got, these guys making YouTubes, Instagrams. I'll be putting out a book soon.
Yeah, when is that coming?
It's probably going to come out in the fall. I wanted to get it done this year, but it's probably going to come out in the fall this year.
Audio too? I
would love to. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I have a crisp enough voice to do it, but I'll figure out something, and I'll make sure it's something that's worthwhile reading. Honestly, I don't want to just scribble a bunch of stories about me exercising. I want there to be an agenda, a lesson, an outcome that people can all follow.
Biceps wins races.
It's the fucking truth, dude. Snap you in half with these things. Yeah, dude. If you guys ever want to keep track of what we're doing, it's Hunter McIntyre on all channels. I'm very grateful for this opportunity also. I think one of my favorite versions of living my life currently is getting out there and telling these stories, because these stories are what got me to where I am now. I've loved books. I've loved listening to podcasts, audio tapes. It's moments that are defining like this, where you find someone who inspires you, that could be that catalyst point for you to change. And that's what really changed my whole life. So hopefully anybody who's listening to this this has just been like a little bit of a seed that's going to get you going. And I'm grateful for you showing up.
No, thank you for your time.
Bro, I had a fucking blast. Thank you.